His eyes met mine in the doorway, wide and hollow, as if the life had been drained out of him in an instant. His hand shook while still holding the keys he had just dropped on the floor. Behind me, the sheets were tangled, my skin still warm from the fire I had given to another man. I wanted to scream, to explain, to beg, but my throat closed with shame. He did not shout. He did not curse. He just stared at me, at the betrayal written all over my body, and that silence was worse than any rage. In that moment, I knew something inside him shattered, and I could never fix it again. To my amazing viewers. Before I take you deep into this story, I want to pause and say a big thank you to every single one of you. To all my subscribers, you are the reason I keep creating these raw, emotional stories. And to my new viewers or those who keep coming back but have not subscribed yet, I cannot wait for you to hit that subscribe button. It truly serves as the fuel and energy that keeps this channel alive. Do not forget to share your thoughts in the comments below as soon as the hook grips you. I love reading every word from you. Now, let us begin. I am 32 years old, a woman living in the suburbs of Illinois. My name is Claire, and on the outside, I have always looked like the woman who had it all. A stable husband, a nice 2-story house, 2 cars in the driveway, and the kind of life that others quietly envy. My husband, Mark, is a good man, steady, reliable, hardworking, and gentle. He is the kind of man who comes home every evening, asks about my day, and kisses me on the forehead before bed. And yet, somewhere deep inside me, I was restless. Mark's love was constant, but it had become predictable. The rhythm of our lives felt safe, but too safe. Dinner, dishes, television, bed. Weekends with family, small gatherings, errands. Nothing unexpected, nothing thrilling, nothing that made my heart race or my breath catch in my chest. I wanted excitement, passion, something wild that would shake me out of the quiet routine I had built around myself. I told myself that it was normal, that every marriage settled eventually. But late at night, I scrolled through social media, staring at photos of women who seemed to be living with fire in their eyes, posting pictures in new places, with new people, always glowing, always alive. I started to wonder if I had settled too much, if I had clipped my own wings. That was when Eric entered my life. Eric was everything Mark was not. He was bold, charming, and reckless in a way that made him impossible to ignore. I met him at the gym I had recently joined, a tall man with a quick smile and a confidence that filled every corner of the room. He was a trainer there, and on the first day he corrected my form during a workout, his hand brushing against mine just a little too long, his eyes holding mine just a little too deep. I should have pulled back. I should have reminded myself that I was a married woman. But instead, I leaned into it. I liked the way he made me feel, noticed, alive, desired. Over the weeks, our conversations became longer. I stayed after workouts just to talk to him, and soon his words were laced with teasing, the kind that left my cheeks flushed. He told me I was beautiful in a way that Mark had not said in years. He looked at me like I was a secret he wanted to keep, and that thrilled me more than I wanted to admit. The first time I crossed the line, it was subtle. A hand on his arm lingered too long. His hand brushed my waist as he leaned close to whisper something, and I did not move away. Our eyes met in the mirror one evening, and in that moment, we both knew where this was heading. One night, when Mark worked late, Eric offered to drive me home. Instead of dropping me off, we parked 2 blocks away, the silence of the car charged with everything we had not said. He leaned in, and before I could even think, our lips met. The kiss was hungry, urgent, filled with the very excitement I had been craving. I let myself drown in it. That night I told myself it was only a kiss. Just a spark. Just a taste. But sparks become flames, and flames do not stay contained for long. The guilt came, yes. I lay in bed next to Mark that night, staring at the ceiling, feeling his arm resting gently across my stomach. He trusted me completely, and that made the guilt heavier. But another voice whispered in me, one louder than guilt. It said, "You deserve this. You deserve to feel alive again." And I believed it. So when Eric texted me the next morning, I did not ignore him. I answered. And from that moment, I started down a path I knew could never end well. What I did not know then was that my craving for more would not only destroy the man who loved me, it would also destroy the very part of me that once believed I was good. When I think back to those months, it feels as though I was living two entirely separate lives. By day, I was the devoted wife, cooking dinners, folding laundry, smiling at family gatherings, and keeping the house in order. By night, I was someone else entirely, a woman consumed by desire, tangled in stolen kisses, and making excuses that I knew were wearing thin. Eric became my secret world. He made me feel like the version of myself I had lost years ago, wild, confident, fearless. With him, I was not just Mark's wife, not just a housewife with predictable routines. I was Claire, the woman who could make a man's pulse race just by stepping into the room. We met in places that made my heart pound with both excitement and fear. Sometimes it was the backseat of his car in a deserted parking lot, where we kissed so hard I forgot my own name. Sometimes it was at a motel off the highway, where the sheets smelled faintly of bleach and cheap cologne. It was never glamorous, but the secrecy made it intoxicating. Eric's hands were rough, urgent, and he touched me like he was starving. And every time I gave in, I felt a rush of adrenaline, followed quickly by guilt that clung to me like a shadow. Mark began to notice changes. He asked why I stayed late at the gym, why I suddenly cared so much about my appearance before heading out. I brushed him off with excuses, I just want to take care of myself, or I need some time to clear my head. He accepted them at first, because he trusted me. That trust, that blind faith in me, should have stopped me. But instead, it gave me room to sink deeper. The lies multiplied. I became good at them, almost too good. I memorized alibis, deleted messages, kept an extra set of clothes in the trunk of my car. Every time Mark wrapped his arms around me at night, I swallowed the urge to confess. But then I remembered Eric's lips, Eric's hands, Eric's voice telling me he could not get enough of me, and my resolve melted away. There were nights when I would come home from Eric's bed and slip into the shower, scrubbing my skin raw, terrified that Mark would smell another man on me. He never did. He never looked at me with suspicion. And that only made the weight of what I was doing heavier. The danger was part of the appeal, though I did not want to admit it. My heart raced when Eric would text me while Mark was sitting next to me on the couch. My breath caught whenever I lied about where I was going. It was reckless, yes, but the recklessness felt alive, and I was addicted to it. One Saturday afternoon, everything nearly unraveled. Mark and I were supposed to spend the day with his parents, but I lied and said I had errands to run first. In reality, I met Eric at his apartment. I lost track of time, wrapped in the chaos of his kisses, when suddenly my phone buzzed, Mark, asking why I was not already at his parents' house. My stomach dropped. I rushed to get dressed, my hair still messy, my face flushed. I barely made it in time, throwing together a story about traffic. When I arrived, Mark's mother looked at me strangely, as if she could see something written on my face. I forced a smile, but inside, panic clawed at me. I realized then how thin the line was between my secret life and the truth exploding in my face. Still, I did not stop. I could not. Eric was a fire I kept returning to, even though it was burning me alive. He would whisper in my ear that he wished I was his, that he hated the thought of me going home to Mark. And in those moments, I hated myself for wanting him just as badly. But the deeper I went, the harder it became to keep the two worlds from colliding. Mark started staying up late, waiting for me to come home. He began asking questions with sharper edges. Why are you always tired? Who are you texting so much? His tone was no longer casual, it was laced with suspicion. I brushed it off, but inside I was shaking. One wrong move, one missed detail, and everything would fall apart. And then, one evening, it happened. I left Eric's place later than usual, rushing home, praying Mark had already fallen asleep. But as I opened the front door, I found him sitting in the living room, the television dark, the lights dim. He was waiting. His eyes scanned me from head to toe, pausing on my flushed cheeks, my disheveled hair. My heart thundered in my chest as he asked, quietly, "Where were you?" It was the kind of question that demanded the truth, but I was not ready to give it. So I lied again, stacking another brick on the fragile wall I had built between my husband and the truth. But that wall was crumbling, and I could feel the cracks spreading. What I did not know then was that the night Mark finally caught me was already closer than I thought. The night the truth came crashing down on me is carved into my memory like a scar I will carry forever. It was a Wednesday evening, ordinary in every way except for the storm brewing outside. The rain fell hard against the windows, thunder shaking the walls as though the world itself was warning me. I had just returned from Eric's apartment, my lips still tasting of him, my body heavy with exhaustion. I slipped through the front door expecting silence, expecting Mark to be asleep in bed. But instead, he was there, sitting at the kitchen table, his phone in his hand, his face pale with fury and heartbreak. The air froze around me. He looked up at me, and in that instant, I knew. He knew. "I saw the messages, Claire," he said, his voice shaking. "Do not lie. Do not tell me you were somewhere else. I read everything." My knees buckled, and for a moment, I could not breathe. The walls seemed to close in as I realized my secret world had shattered. Eric's words, my replies, every detail of my betrayal, it was all there, laid bare before the man I had vowed to love. I tried to speak, but nothing came out except a whisper of his name. "Mark, He slammed the phone on the table, and the sound cut through me like a blade. His eyes glistened with tears, but they were not tears of weakness. They were tears of devastation, a betrayal so deep it shook him to his core. "How long?" he demanded. The question pierced me, and I could not answer. Silence was my confession. "That long?" he choked out, his voice breaking. "All those nights, when I thought you were mine, you were with him?" I wanted to fall to my knees, to beg for forgiveness, but even as I opened my mouth, I knew forgiveness was impossible. What I had done was not a mistake, it was a choice, repeated again and again until it became a second life. He stared at me with a look I will never forget, like I was a stranger, like the woman he married had been replaced by someone he did not recognize. "Why, Claire?" His voice was raw, pleading, desperate for an answer that could somehow make sense of it all. But there was no answer that could soothe that kind of pain. I tried, I felt invisible, I needed more, but the words sounded hollow, pathetic. The truth was simpler, I had been selfish. Mark stood up, his chair scraping against the floor. For a moment, I thought he would scream, or throw something, or unleash the anger boiling inside him. But he did not. Instead, he just shook his head, his hands trembling, and whispered words that cut deeper than any shout. "I gave you everything. And it was not enough." He walked past me, brushing my shoulder, and for the first time in our marriage, he did not touch me with love. He went into the bedroom, packed a bag in silence, and left the house without another word. I sank to the floor, sobbing, clutching the edge of the table like it could hold me together. But nothing could. The man who had built a life with me, who trusted me without hesitation, was gone, and I was the reason. In the days that followed, silence filled the house. Mark did not return. Friends called, family asked questions, but I kept the truth buried beneath excuses. Shame wrapped around me like chains, and I lived with the sound of his voice echoing in my head, "I gave you everything." And it was not enough. Eric tried to comfort me, to say we could be together now, but his words felt empty. The thrill that once set me on fire turned to ash in my mouth. Being with him only reminded me of everything I had lost. I had destroyed my marriage, and in the end, the man I had risked it all for was not enough either. The irony was cruel. I thought I wanted passion, excitement, freedom. What I found was loneliness, regret, and the memory of the man I broke. And here is the part that still haunts me, I miss him. I miss the man who loved me without question, who trusted me blindly, who saw me as his world. I miss the way Mark laughed, the way he said my name, the way he believed in me when I stopped believing in myself. But he will never be mine again. I broke him, and some things cannot be mended. Now, when I look back, I realize that love is not just about excitement. It is about loyalty, trust, and the quiet, steady kind of devotion that holds two people together when passion fades. I threw that away for moments of flesh, and I will carry the weight of that choice forever. I miss the man I broke. And that is a wound that will never heal.